You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. This first story, I know we're going to get in the comment section. You guys are fake news. You're making this up. But believe it or not, Joe Biden is struggling to bring in cash. You believe that? Nobody wants to hire Joe Biden to speak at their events. It's causing a lot of problems. Nobody wants to donate to his library. This is shocking. This is just shocking. So here's a little montage of him during his presidency with the emphasis on how often Jill had to jump in. And there is a cut of his recent disastrous appearance on The View, which in light of this, that appearance makes a lot more sense.
Such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the...
Can you believe they don't want to give this guy
And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do?
Lies!
Yes.
What did the babysitter do? Hone right in on the grieving widower. And I'm going to get me some of that grieving senator man right there. Showing him which way he has to go there. Yeah. What the fuck just happened? So that was unbelievable.
And we got it done. And, one of the things and Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us.
She talked about the fact that sometimes the White House, in her words, surprises you. And for somebody who has worked on women's health issues for her whole career, frankly, as a teacher, but also as the second lady and now as the first lady, she said one of the things that struck her the most was the inequities in medical research, funding for medical research for women. So this is an important priority of hers.
Maybe they should pay her to speak. Maybe they should get her. Clearly, we did have a President Biden. It just wasn't the one that people voted for. Now, this to me is as much a media story as a Biden story, because right after the election, the media tried to distance themselves from the Biden administration as if they had nothing to do with this cover-up. Dems rage against Biden's arrogance after Harris loss. But these were the same exact people who were telling people like us who were pointing out that the emperor had no clothes, that we were monsters, that we were helping Trump, that we were ableist. After Harris's loss, angry Democrats blame her boss Biden. So this was very confusing for them. I got to say, there has not been a Democratic president the Democrats were this unsure of how to talk about since Jimmy Carter, the last one-term Democratic president. Do you run away from him? Do you embrace him? Do you defend him? They haven't known whether to shut or wind their wristwatch since Joe Biden lost. Now, the top headline is recent. America was gaslit by the arrogance of Joe Biden and his enablers. Now, this comes after their initial attempt to quash Jake Tapper, right? Because Jake Tapper, it's not so much that he attacks Joe Biden, it's that he went so deep. There's absolutely no way to accept that this book is true without it being a searing indictment of the entire media complex. They had pretty much figured out how they were going to handle this. They're going to pretend they knew nothing, and they're going to just target Joe Biden. Now, what happened between this and that top headline is Jake Tapper did a round of interviews, including with Joe Scarborough, where he made it very clear, you cover for me, I cover for you. You cover for me, I cover for you. I say I didn't see anything. You say you didn't see anything. I say, of course you didn't see anything. I didn't see anything either. Nobody saw nothing, right? But some people who I'm not going to name, they probably knew, right? Okay. So now they've shifted, now that they realize Tapper's not going to name names, that he's actually going to be complicit in saying, yeah, no, they hid this really well. Now they've shifted back to just attacking Joe Biden. This is how these scumbags work. So Rolling Stone, there is really no more Libby outlet than Rolling Stone. I assume Taibbi is under an NDA because he's never talked about it, but clearly his continuing the kind of Hunter Thompson gonzo journalism, attack everybody in power style did not go with the direction the magazine has gone in, which is full MSNBC. So this is what they said. Just the fact that they're reporting this tells you a lot. After his disastrous decision to run for re-election helped secure Donald Trump's victory, former President Joe Biden is fighting for his reputation and struggling to rake in cash. After Biden's catastrophic 2024 debate performance against Trump revealed the extent of his declining health and marked the end of his campaign, why would anyone pay the former president to speak? And who would want to fund a Biden presidential library as a monument to his legacy in office when his legacy now includes Trump's lawless and destructive second term? Stopped clock twice a day. This week, Biden's personal office revealed he has stage 4 prostate cancer. The diagnosis is also putting more pressure on Biden to quickly build an inheritance for his grandchildren, as WSJ said in its report on Saturday. In separate reporting, the cancer claimed it has stage 4 Biden.
Yeah.
Biden's speaking fees, $300,000 to $500,000, are reportedly below what former President Barack Obama charges, according to the paper. I'd like to know what he charges. And that is if people hire him. See, his rate's gone up. When Obama got out, he got $400,000 a speech from the banks. Now he's charging more. His rate's gone up. And that is if people hire him. He has given at least one paid speech, but, quote, few organizations have been willing to pay for Biden, wrote Wall Street Journal, which noted that some companies and organizations are reportedly afraid to provoke Trump. They don't want ICE going over there. They don't care if you're American or not. Hey, you don't look American. Tell it to them at CCOT. Many Democratic donors are hesitant to donate to Biden's presidential library. Fundraising for the library, quote, will be a heavy lift in light of all that has transpired, John Morgan, a lawyer and former major Biden donor, told Wall Street Journal. Morgan said that Biden, who once promised to be a bridge candidate, failed to create a bridge for the next generation of Democratic leaders. Donors who supported Biden said they don't plan to give to his library, and some allies worry the library won't open in Biden's lifetime. Now, the Wall Street Journal article this is based on gets into more details, because Hunter's a total fuck up that nobody's going to give a job to. Now that he has no political influence, he hasn't been able to get a job, and the Bidens have like 5 grandchildren. And because Beau died, there's no real money coming in there. So they're trying to build up some kind of inheritance. James Biden, who really profited off his relationship, I'm sure he's good for nothing. So now I didn't understand why they put him on The View. I mean, I just kind of chalked it up to, I guess it's a misguided attempt to rehabilitate him. Now it makes a lot more sense. Why? Because they all know his brain is melting. Like, why would they risk him making a fool of himself, which he kind of did. It could have been worse on The View, because they're trying to show people it's an advertisement. It's a sandwich board. Look, he can talk.
He can talk. Yeah, exactly.
Give him a job, please. And the presidential library, that is humiliating. That didn't even happen with Carter, that they can't raise enough money for the presidential library. But it makes sense. Because the Democrats, just like Russiagate, they're highly motivated never to blame themselves for anything. And he's the new Russiagate. It's your fault. It's never their fault. It's never their fault for not noticing that this guy could not do the job, when the average people sitting on their couch like us saw it. We saw it. Not their fault. It's Biden's fault. Now that they've decided that's the tack they're going to take, they're not going to blame the media. They're not going to blame the DNC. They're not going to blame their rigged primaries. They're not going to blame Obama for the Monday night massacre. If you want to go back, they're not going to blame any of those figures. They're just going to blame the Bidens and scapegoat very much. He's the Netanyahu of the Democratic Party now. They're just gonna put it all on him. How are you going to raise money for a library if that's the narrative you're going to construct to protect yourself from self-criticism?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's obviously the scapegoat of the party. That is somewhat surprising that there's that much spite for him that they won't even fund his library. I mean, that's kind of crazy. In terms of, nobody's going to pay him $500,000 to speak. I mean, are you fucking kidding? Like, that's a punchline in and of itself. You may as well write, Stevie Wonder has trouble finding private investigator work. It's the same thing. Like, of course they're going to pay $500,000 for that.
Right.
Obviously.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible that they
speaking fees.
Thought that was going to happen. No, the Wall Street Journal article talks about how he's kind of been making the rounds, going to former donors as kind of a prelude to hitting them up for money for the library. One donor said he told them, I'm writing you one check and that's it.
Right.
No more after that. That's the treatment they're getting. They're talking about trying to build out his presidential papers at University of Delaware. I'm not sure which university, a university in the state of Delaware. They're talking about, I guess, to avoid the total humiliation, they're talking about doing it on the cheap and taking the Biden papers that they have there and turning it into a presidential library.
Well, I mean, they're not helped by the fact that, Donald Trump is off to a start that, for whatever we feel about the libs, has certainly validated their worst fears about what he might do. Yep. And so, we covered Beto O'Rourke on PodSave
beyond their
a week
worst
ago.
Fears.
Yeah, beyond their worst fears, exactly. And when we covered Beto, on PodSave, he says, he failed the country in his most basic responsibility, which is to stop Donald Trump. And in doing so, we may very well have lost this country. I mean, those have been the stakes in the minds of a lot of these people for a very long time. Right. And, the rationale for his candidacy in 2019 going into 2020 is that he was most equipped to beat Donald Trump. Now, of course, we never bought that. I maintain that absent COVID, he would have lost pretty handily to Donald Trump in 2020. But nonetheless, through fluke circumstances, he was able to get in. But it was very obvious that he had no business running again. And so it's not surprising that there's not a lot of goodwill for him. It's a little surprising the extent to which there is such spite and hatred for Joe Biden that they won't even fund the library. I mean, that's really bad.
I've never seen the like of it. With Jimmy Carter, the narrative from very early on was, we love him. He's one of the most decent men to ever hold the presidency, but that's part of why he was such a bad president. He wasn't good at the real politic of governing. That was what they settled on very early. So there was never this, we despise.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
Well,
I think there rarely has been anything like this.
No, I've never. I mean, Donald Trump left the White House on pretty bad terms.
They say people didn't like
time,
Truman.
Right.
They say Truman was pretty hated until he was kind of like rehabilitated.
Well, look at Trump. I mean, the first term, Trump were pretty much left in disgrace. I mean, the January 6th thing, that was a lot of bad press. Whatever we might think about that. And he didn't even attend the inaugural ceremony. I mean, it was pretty pathetic how he left office. There was never any talk of him not getting a library. That'll be something, the Donald Trump presidential. I mean, I can't imagine what that's going to look like. But there was never any talk of him not getting one, of him not being able to fund one. Baby. Right? Even that, exactly. Even that, it's so that is karma. That is karma. More karma than I even thought he would have coming. But the speaking fee, I mean, that's a joke in and of itself. You shop this guy around for speeches. Who the fuck's
that is
speak?
something.
I'll tell you what, Joe. You could speak at our arts festival. We'll give you $75, and we'll put you up at the Super 8 in Paramus and buy you a bus ticket into Port Authority, and then we'll get you a yellow cab ride from Port Authority to the theater, and you'll get an add-on fee of $75.
Yeah, you got to do your own makeup and your own hair.
Yeah, right, exactly.
we don't.
That's
we
our
don't
bid. Can
provide
anybody
that.
top that? I don't know if anybody can top that. He might have to take it. He might have to
I
take it.
will.
Imagine Joe Biden headlines our arts festival.
It would definitely be a draw. Well, we'll just bill it as a Grand Guignol.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, as I was going through this, I was thinking, you have to take your victories where you get them. This is some small victory. Like, you could not find a bunch of people who karmically deserve this ending more than the Biden crime clan. Jill Biden, I'm always hesitant to embrace these kinds of narratives because very often they are driven by misogyny. Yeah, she's a real Lady Macbeth, man. Like,
Yeah.
that was the babysitter who honed in on the widow and that on the widower. That's a certain type. That's the type that would prop up this old man in what is in the end elder abuse because she didn't want to give up the power she was exercising behind the throne. That's
Yeah.
what this looks like at this point. And she still doesn't want to give it up. I'm sure it was her idea to send him out there on The View.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would bet. I would bet.
And she's there to make sure when he starts trailing off, she jumps in.
Hey, thanks for watching our video. We're currently raising money to produce our documentary film on the Uhuru movement. Go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in.
Every dollar you give goes towards the project. We do not take any kind of salary on these. We mostly live on Gatorade when we're on the road, so even solid food is iffy, just enough to get by. But we do not take any pay for this. Every dollar actually goes into what we need to shoot the project. The Uhuru movement is a subject that really deserves more exposure. Everybody heard about it through the court case, and that was an important thing to elevate. But they've done incredible community work demonstrating a different way that is socialist and not dependent on the government at the same time, which a lot of people don't even realize that still exists in the tradition of the Black Panther food and education programs. And to show there is such a strong community like that with such strong leadership is really important, particularly at this historical moment.
Yeah, so we're really excited about doing the project, but we need your help. So go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents to chip in. Thanks very much for your support.
Please clap.